Three black men are suing American Airlines for racism after they were deplaned this year over an allegation of body odor. Let's talk about it. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about three black men suing American Airlines over racism after they were deplaned back in January on a flight from Phoenix to New York City. Now, the allegation is that 8, not just 3, but 8 black men total had offensive body odor, and they were deplaned as a result. Now, these men didn't know each other. They were not sitting together. They were in different parts of the plane. So they're like, okay, what's going on here? What is this? Is this racism? And then the kicker is that after an hour of going back and forth, trying to rebook and whatnot, they were allowed to board the plane. It might have been that same plane that they were taking off or a different plane. And then they went to JFK, New York City. Now, my question is, if they were allowed to board that same plane or a different plane an hour later, then what happened? Did the smell just go away on all 8 of the people? And how did 8 people who don't know each other all get deplaned for body odor? What's really going on? Now, of course, people can stink. People sometimes do have body odor, but 8 people getting kicked off a plane and then allowed to reboard, I'm not buying the excuse of body odor, but it may not necessarily be racism either. I think I have an idea of what's going on. Now, before I go any further, let's get into the actual news clip. Of course, I will link to this in the description. If you're on IG, visit the link in the bio, go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
Newly filed lawsuit. 3 black men are suing American Airlines. They allege company employees appeared to remove all of them from a flight over a complaint about body odor. First on CBS Mornings, the men are telling their story to our Chris Van Cleve.
We're the only ones getting taken off the plane. Look at this.
Now, can we stop right here? What I noticed right away and what I saw from the beginning, when I saw the men in the picture, they look similar to each other. I think that is the reason why they were taken off, not necessarily just because they're black. I think there was some kind of security concern, and that may have prompted it. And American Airlines is not being honest about why they were taken off the plane. Okay, I think that's what's going on, but let's go ahead and get into it.
Video at the center of a newly filed lawsuit against American Airlines appears to show a number of black men after they've been removed from a flight allegedly due to a complaint about offensive body odor.
So this is discrimination.
The lawsuit claims as Flight 832 from Phoenix to New York was finishing boarding in January, American employees removed 8 black men from the plane. They were not traveling together, weren't seated next to each other, did not know each other, and appeared to be the only black men on the flight.
Now, the whole thing about them not sitting together and not knowing each other is a very important thing, because if you're the only black guys on the flight or the only guys who look like you and you all know each other, it could have been a situation where you come from the same place, like the same country. You might have come from the same physical location. You might have been in the car smoking weed, hot boxing, and you guys all smell like weed and you going on the plane. But how can that be so when they didn't know each other and they were just meeting for the first time at that moment? Doesn't make any sense.
According to the suit filed early this morning.
As I got my things and walked to the front of the plane and made a left to the jet bridge, I noticed that there was 7 other black men. And that kind of was like, okay, what's happening here? So
for plaintiffs Emmanuel Jean Joseph, Alvin Jackson, and Xavier Veal, Flight 832 was a connection. They'd taken an earlier flight from Los Angeles without issue.
It was just black men. So I started freaking out. I pulled out my phone to record everything.
At any point, did somebody from American say to any of you that you had an offensive odor?
No.
Now, let's go back. Like I said, they look similar. Dark skin, hair. You know, we got one man, my man has like the Swiss. Other guy has dreads. Other guy has a fro. So if you didn't know any better and you were seeing them from a distance, you would think they look similar. And that's probably what's going on. There was probably some kind of security alert. Somebody said, okay, here's a description. Dark-skinned black male between the ages of 25 and 35. They may be dangerous, armed, smuggling drugs. So let's get them all off the flight and make up an excuse. Okay, body odor. That's probably what happened here, but they don't want to talk about that. It might have been something from the federales, something from TSA that they don't want to say because of security concerns.
No.
The lawsuit claims over the course of about an hour, the men were kept in the jetway and then moved to the gate area where they were told they'd be rebooked on another flight to New York later that day, and alleges an American employee indicated the complaint about offensive body odor had come from a white male flight attendant. A gate agent seen in the video at one point seems to agree race was a factor in the men getting pulled off the flight.
Just because of the color of my skin. Okay.
I do not disagree.
But when another flight to New York couldn't be found, they were put back on the same plane.
Had to go back on the plane with everybody looking at us, for me, very uncomfortable. Everybody staring at me. Me and all the other black people on the plane were just taking off.
I knew that as soon as I get on that plane, a sea of white faces were going to be looking at me and blaming me for their late flight of an hour.
Their lawyer, Sue Huta, says American declined to give her clients any answers about what happened in Phoenix.
It's almost inconceivable to come up with an explanation for that other than the color of their skin, particularly since they didn't know each other, they weren't sitting near each other. It seems fairly apparent that race was part of this dynamic.
The lawsuit cites other recent incidents where passengers have alleged being discriminated against by American and a 2017 NAACP travel advisory urging members not to fly the airline. It was lifted about 8 months later.
We were discriminated against. The entire situation was racist.
Do you think if you were anything other than a black man, this would not have happened?
If I was a white person, it probably wouldn't have happened.
Now, let's talk about it for real. Do these guys look like they're the kind of people that would have offensive body odor? Man, we talking about these guys look like they do skin routines in the morning. Look at the hair. The hair is all nice and pretty and well-groomed. These guys are not the kind of guys that go into a flight stinking, okay? It's just not really a thing. And they didn't even know each other. These are strangers that met that day on the flight, and they were not sitting near each other. So I'm not buying the BO excuse. That's just something that they made up. I think there was some kind of security problem, and these guys looked similar. It fit the description that somebody put out there. Who knows who it was? And now they were deplaned as a result, but then put right back on the same plane. Now, what I want to hear from is anyone who was on the actual flight, any of the passengers. Hey, did you smell these guys? Were all 8 of these people that didn't know each other stinking? Is that what was going on? If you were to say 1, maybe 2 guys getting deplaned at the same time for body odor, and maybe they knew each other, okay, cool. You guys smelling like weed and you getting on the flight, that might make some sense. But 8, the chances of that happening and then getting put right back on the same plane an hour later is slim to none. It's slim to none.
I think they would have walked past like the other white passengers that were there.
CBS legal analyst Ricky Kleeman.
The plaintiffs may really have no interest in money, and they may have a sincere interest in making a public statement about racial discrimination by a major airline.
I mean, let's not get it twisted. I mean, money's going to be a factor. If you got a lawyer, money's going to be a part of it. So let's not play games, but they may actually deserve it.
Is this kind of case a tough one to win at trial?
The question at trial really is about what are the protocols of American Airlines. And they better have some, and they better have done something with these particular employees in terms of discipline after this action.
American Airlines tells CBS News it takes all claims of discrimination very seriously and says in a statement, our teams are currently investigating the matter as the claims do not reflect our core values or our purpose of caring for people. The lawsuit seeks unspecified damages. Nate?
Chris, thank you. Looks like American Airlines has some explaining to do.
Some explaining to do. All of us sympathize with the jobs that flight attendants have. It's a slippery slope when you think of the amount of power that a single flight attendant might have. I've seen things go amiss on flights, not necessarily American Airlines, but where just someone says the wrong thing at the wrong time, but it's just a comment.
Right.
And it escalates
Then
to
they flex
you're
their
getting
power on you.
Of course, that's kind of what happens sometimes. So we're going to see how this whole thing plays out. I think that somebody's going to have some serious, what they say, some splaining to do for sure, because they were allowed back on the flight. So did the smell go away? Did anybody else smell them? Was there any kind of witnesses? I mean, it's possible that 8 individual random people that did not know each other could have been on the flight and could have been stinking, and they all were dark-skinned black males between the ages of 25 and 35. I mean, that's possible, maybe, but I doubt it. I think that maybe the flight attendant had an issue with somebody and didn't quite know who it was, but kind of knew how they looked and were just trying to get that person off. But since they couldn't find that person, maybe they got everybody off. Maybe it was a security concern. Something is up aside from the whole smell kerfuffle. And I don't think it was strictly about race necessarily. But as I close, I want to say this. Shout out to American Airlines, man. You're going to pay some money here. Oh, for sure. Yeah, you're going to pay some money because obviously something's not right. Something, the story of BO, I'm not buying. So since I don't really buy that story, and that's probably not true, you guys probably going to pay some money. And I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? Are you buying the official story from American Airlines talking about body odor is the reason why all 8, because it's 3 guys suing, but it was 8 guys in total, and they all look the same. Again, dark-skinned black males, 25 to 35, afro, braids, twists. They look the same. They fit the description. Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. Something is up here. Is not what they are saying. The story is different, and we're going to figure out. I want to get down to the bottom of it. I want to hear from witnesses and people that were on the actual flight, other passengers. Let's hear from them to see what was happening. Did it smell like weed? Did it smell like full court basketball? Or did it smell like peaches and berries and creams and skin routine? What was really happening on that flight from Phoenix to New York City? Whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.